Hey, it's tutorial time. This is the super easy beginner tutorial for this glass ocean ball. It's going to use, you're going to learn about layers and masking, and we're going to do everything the super simple way, and you can build knowledge on this one later on. This is the finished result here, and I'm going to go ahead and close this out. In the links, in the post comments, I'm going to have a link to all of the images you can use to create this. So go ahead and download those if you haven't already and open them up. We have 6 of them. The beach art background is going to be our base that we're working on. We're adding the elements to this image. And we're going to start with the first one, which is the glass ball. We don't need all of this background. We've got to get rid of this background here to where we just have the ball in the hand. So go over to the left to your quick selection tool. You can make your selection tool larger using your right bracket key. And go ahead and just make a rough selection around. We're going to go back and get the finer edges afterwards. Let's see, we're going to push down the Alt key and get rid of this and make your brush smaller using your left bracket key. Hold down the Alt key again and get rid of this area. We don't want that selected. And then if you zoom in, Control plus will zoom you in. You see it didn't get all of the little edges here, so you've got to go back with a smaller brush and make sure you get all of those. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it as good as you can get it here. Let's see. Those all look good. Missed a little bit over here. Okay, I'm going to go around and look again, make sure there's nothing I missed. It's a good selection around the fingers. Okay, looks good. So I'm going to go to the bottom right and click on the mask icon. And you see your background disappeared, which is perfect. So we're going to click on this, hold it down, and drag it over to our background, the beach art background, and drop it. It's huge. We've got to make it smaller. So I'm going to shrink my screen here, Control minus, bring it down so I can see everything, and then Control T, there we go. That'll bring up the transform box so you can make it smaller. If you're on the most current version of Photoshop, when you click and drag, it'll maintain the aspect ratio. You can see that I'm not on the most current version right now, so mine is warping everything. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to hit Control T again. Since I'm not on the most current version, I have to hold down the Shift key as I'm making it smaller. I do have the most current version, but I work in both, so I'm in the wrong one. And you have to have it all the way in the corner because you see her finger. You can't put it down here because all of her finger isn't there. You'd have to put it down a little bit lower. So I'm going to stick it in the corner here and make it a little bit larger. Maybe even a little bit bigger. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to cancel and redo that because I forgot to hold down my Shift key. Control T again. Hold down my Shift key there. Now I'm maintaining my aspect ratio. I'm not warping my ball. And I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, that's good. Click the check up top. There you go. The next thing we're going to do is over on the right hand side, make sure that this box is selected for your image, not your mask. Your mask is on the right, the black and white. Your image is on the left. And then we're going to select her fingers. There we go. And I don't want this little area selected. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and make sure that's not selected. I'm going to zoom in and make sure I got all of her finger. And over here you can see I got a little bit of the ball. I only want her fingers. So I'm going to push down the Alt key and take that selection off the glass ball where it's just on her fingers. And down here, let's see, got a little bit of the ball in that. Okay, and then up on the right hand side, well, before we do this, you have your selection done. Hit Control J. That's giving you a selection of just the fingers, and you'll see why we do that in just a little bit. But while I'm here, see over here I missed a little bit of that ball. Even though I double checked, I missed a little bit of it. So I'm going to go down to the ball layer. I'm going to select the mask and I'm going to add that back in. White reveals and black conceals. So you want your brush on white. You want to make sure your brush tool is selected. And I'm going to go, make sure you're on the mask over here. I'm going to go over here and paint this little area I missed back in. There we go. Okay, let's continue on here. Control minus to shrink it down a little bit so I can see it good. And the next thing to go in is going to be one of the ocean backgrounds, and that's going to be this one, 480 underwater partition. We're going to drag the whole thing, click on it, and drag the whole thing up to your beach art background. Drag it down and drop it. Now you can see what happened, why we cut out the fingers here. No matter what we do, we're not going to affect those fingers. We can forget the fingers are even there. We don't have to mask them. We don't have to do anything else with them. Okay, so this is way too big. I'm going to hit Control T again. And if you're on the newest version of Photoshop, you don't need to hold Shift down while you do this, but I do. You want to make sure you're keeping that aspect ratio the same. We're going to put it over the ball, and then we're going to mask out what we don't need. And it's hard to see right now. It's covering the ball. Click your check mark, go over to the right, make sure you're on that layer, and take the opacity down. Now you can see both layers. And we're going to add a mask on that layer. There it is. And we're going to erase some of this. Black conceals. You want to make sure your brush is black. You can hit your X key, and now your brush is black. Make sure you're on your brush, and we're going to make it large. And we're going to start getting rid of the parts we don't want. We're going to fine tune it in a minute. I'm just going to get rid of all of the extra big stuff first. Okay, and then go back and turn your opacity up again. And now we can see where we missed. You can keep changing your brush sizes using the left and right bracket keys. And you want to be on a soft brush. Up here, all the way to the left is a soft brush. And I'm going to go around the edges. Okay, now I'm going to change it. I'm going to click my X key and change it back to white. And just keep kind of fine tuning it. I want the edges of the ball to show because that gives it that glass look. And X again, I'm going to make my brush smaller and just kind of keep fine tuning it. You want the little bit of glow around the edges. A little bit too far. And just keep hitting your X key to shift back and forth between white and black brush. And being a soft brush, it bleeds over, so it takes a little bit. Okay. Make sure I got all this filled in. Okay, right now filling in these little areas, I'm on the white brush. White reveals and black conceals. And the fingers aren't being affected because I have them way up here on the layer above it. So we don't have to worry about the fingers. Okay, The next thing we're going to do is add the little boat in the back. So let's go to the water and boat stock image. Go to your quick selection. And I'm not going to worry about the little flag up top because it's so small you don't even notice it's there. But I am going to get all the boat. I'm not going to worry about that little bar there either. Just make sure you have a good selection on your sails. Again, if you've gone over, hold down your Alt key and undo that. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to click Control and J, and then that put it on a separate layer right there, and I see I missed some. So I'm going to click the eraser tool and get rid of that little bit there. Okay. Click on that layer, drag it over to the beach art background and drop it. And it's too big again, so we're going to press Control T to bring up the transform window. And we're going to shrink it way down. And then drag it up, maybe a little bit more. Just to your taste there. And when you're done, click the check mark. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is add the ocean animals, and that is in your ocean animal file here. And we're going to drag the whole thing over. Click on it, drag it over to the beach art background, drop it. And that one's huge too. Control T to bring up your transform window. And we're going to shrink it down. And so you can go over to the right and lower your opacity so you can see what you're doing. You can see the foam at the top where the waves are breaking. Let's try to match those up here. Okay, well, I think we still need to be a little bit smaller. Make sure I cover the bottom. A little bit bigger. Okay, that looks good. Click your check mark. And we need to mask out the part we don't need, so make sure you're on that layer. Click your mask button, and you have a white mask, so you need to make sure that your brush is on black, because white reveals and black conceals, so you want black. And make sure you're on your brush. And let's do the same thing we did before and get rid of the big areas. And turn your opacity back up. And we're going to get rid of a little bit more. I like to bring my brush a little bit smaller here. And again, you want to leave some of that glow around the edge of the ball. Click your X button to quickly go back and forth so you can draw it in or take it out. Okay, I'm going to go along here. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, onto the water here. You can see you have two different types of water on the top of the ocean. We're going to erase, mask out the top of this layer. So now you have your sea foam. There we go. And then the last element, almost last, we have two more to do. I'm going to put the mermaid in. Click on your mermaid file. This one is already cut out. All of these images are from Pixabay, and they have tons of things on there that are in the PNG format, which are already cut out for you, which is the most amazing thing. Okay, we're grabbing that one, click on it, drag it, and go back over to your beach art background and drop it. And then again, you're going to hit Control T to shrink her down because she's huge. What I'm going to do with her is have her tail stick up a little bit out of the water, give it some three-dimensional effect here. And I may turn her a little bit. You want to make sure her hair is all underwater. Okay, that looks good. And click your check mark. She wasn't completely clean here, her image, even though the back of it looked invisible. It really isn't because I can see some junk over here. So we're going to make sure her layer is clicked, and we're going to click the layer mask, and we're going to make sure we have a black brush and you're on the brush, and we're going to erase this junk down here at the bottom of the image that was left over. The other thing we're going to do is make her tail look a little bit better, sticking out of the water. So I'm going to make the brush small, and I'm using my left bracket key, and I'm going to hit Control plus to zoom in and make the brush even smaller, and I'm going to follow along this break line, the foam here. Maybe a little bit there. Here, blend that in, and then it looks like her tail's sticking out of the water instead of her looking like she's a stamp you just stuck on top of the ball. The other thing that you can do is, if you're over the whale, you can bring him back in here. And I wiped out some of her hair, so I'm going to click X to go back to a white brush so I can paint her hair back in. There we go. I'm not really crazy about this diver over here, but he can stay for now. Normally, I would probably clone him out. Although maybe he's cool. He may be alright. Since she's in water, you notice that the animals have a tint to them being in the water. She has no tint. So the last thing we're going to do to her on this same mask, we're going to take the opacity of the brush way down, like maybe 8%, and we're going to brush it over her just to give her a little bit of that. Oop. You have to hit X for your black brush. I've missed that step. Just to give her a little bit of underwater feel there, like the animals have. And I'm going to hit X again and take it off right here because we have fish coming through. There we go. And really, she looks fine either way with her coloring. Let's see, what do we have next? I'm going to Control minus to zoom out, and let's put a bigger boat in the back in the water. Go to your water and boat stock again. You still have the boat on this layer, so grab it, drag it over to your beach art background and drop it. And then you're going to move the layer. Over here on the right hand side, we want to put the layer between the background and the ball. So you're going to drag it all the way down between the background and the ball and drop it. And it's not listening to me. It's still not listening to me. One more. Okay. Well, I don't know why we're doing this here. There we go. It's just being a little bit finicky. And now I want to be on that layer, and I'm going to Control T. Take it down a little bit, move it up, just where it's peeking behind the ball there. You'll notice the background is blurry. The boat is very sharp and it sticks out like a sore thumb. So while you're on that layer, let's make the sailboat blurry back here. Have that layer selected, go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. There it is. And that might be enough, 6.2. Okay. I chose 6.6, whatever. Choose whatever you think looks good. Click OK. And that's it. Other than there are two more things that you can do. There's a lot of different ways to color blend to make something look like it belongs in a scene by changing the colors. These are different color blues here. A really easy way to do this, and you'll learn much more advanced ways later on, but go to your top layer, go down here to Filter Layers, and choose Color Lookup. Color Lookup is going to blend all the images together, all the color tones. You've got a lot of choices here, and Fuji are ones I love. They have Fuji and Kodak. They have a lot of choices there. And you can see each one, it's kind of blending the colors together. It makes it very cohesive looking, all the colors. And I think I'm going to go with so many choices. Let's go down to Kodak. I like the greens, but I like the blues too. Or maybe Fuji. No. Decisions. Okay, there we go. I'm going to stick with Kodak 5205. You choose whichever one, and it doesn't have to be Kodak or Fuji. There's other selections in there that'll give really neat effects. The other thing that we need to do here is, at the beginning you saw the reflections in the ball that made it look like a glass ball. We don't have those anymore, so we're going to do a really easy way to put reflections back in there. There's more advanced ways, but that's later lessons. So we're going to create a new layer here. This is your new layer icon. We have a new empty layer. We're going to make sure our brush is selected, and we're going to take the opacity back up to 100%. Make sure you're on a white brush, and we're going to draw, make sure it's soft too, all the way to the left. There we go. And we're going to draw a reflection on here, give it a little shine. And then you can make your brush smaller to taper it down a little bit. And again, there's other ways you're going to learn to do this, but this is what we're going to do this time, just for ease. You can adjust the opacity of that. And you don't have to do this part of it either, since we are beginner learning. And you can put one on this side. You can just, that's all up to you. But it gives a little extra sheen, a little pop there. Her fingernail here is driving me kind of crazy, so we're going to add one more layer. And we're going to go to the left and choose the clone tool, and we're going to fill in her nail polish. So let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's Control plus to zoom in. Bracket, a little bit smaller brush, and we're going to hold our Alt key in and make a selection. And we're going to just brush a little bit more red in here, because it really does drive me nuts. Okay. Just keep clicking Alt to select areas. I'm hitting Alt and brushing, Alt and brushing, Alt. And just keep going over and over again until it gets where you want. If it starts bleeding through, just go to another area and click Alt again. Okay, that's not a perfect job at that, but that'll do for our example here. What else can we do to this? If you really wanted to get into detail, we're not going to do this, but you could do a bubble brush and do bubbles coming up from the mermaid or maybe the fish through there. That gives it a little bit of a realistic look. We can give it a more artsy look. I'll show you how to do that. If you hold down Control, Alt, Shift, and click E, that gives you a stamp of everything here converged into one layer. And out of this layer, we're going to go up to Filter, Stylize, and go to Oil Paint. And you can see the softened look that gave you, especially if you zoom in. You can take off the preview mark, and it goes from sharp to very soft. You can go as far as you want on that softening. You could stylize it some to give it a painted look, but I'm going to leave that off. I just want it a little bit softer. Control minus to zoom back out. And let's look at a before and after. I don't know if you can tell through the computer, but it's gives it a nice look, surreal look. And that's it. The other thing that you could do with this image is you've got a lot of negative space over here, so you could crop it down a little bit. Let's click OK on that. Missed that step. So on the crop tool, you can go to maybe a 4:6 ratio and hit your reverse to make it landscape. Drag it out, maybe to the left, and click OK. And that's it. You're done. So you can file, save as your JPEG, or export for a web PNG. And if you have any questions, if you get stuck, send me a message and I'll walk you step by step through this. And that's it. Thanks, guys.